All right, welcome everybody back to another edition of Chairgatin. I'm your host, Rattlesnake, coming at you live from Nascar Central, Austin, Texas. I'm here once again with my co-host, Dakota Drake. Dakota?
Oh, man, we got a lot to talk about and uncover in this one. I'm a little heated. I'm a little pissed off. Oh, I'm sure you're a little nicer than I am. But, man, great to see you back. Let's get this episode started.
Let's get it.
What's up? It's Chairgatin coming at you live.
Hello, come right in. Rock, flag, and eagle.
So I'm thinking you're probably going to have a slightly different opinion of this race. I was there. You watched it on TV. I think that's going to be the most interesting aspect of this is hearing your opinion as a viewer on television and then hearing my opinion as a person that lived through a hurricane.
I mean, I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited you were there. And then the fact that we had this whole rain race dilemma was awesome. But yeah, I have a lot to complain about with the coverage we got this weekend. I have a lot to complain about with NASCAR. And we were kind of talking back and forth like, well, you're like, well, that's not how I feel. I mean, being there, this and that. And then I'm like, well, it looks like it's fun as hell. And you're like, no, it sucks. I'm wet. I'm a wet cat. This is miserable. And I'm like, well, I got a rain jacket, man.
To be fair, I complain about everything. I mean, I think everyone knows that.
This is very true.
Yep.
But man, I don't know where we start off on this one, but God, it just the fact they do it like this in the rain, I give them applause because you know how miserable would it be to sit here and like, oh man, I guess they're postponing it Monday. What do I do on my Sunday now? Like we've been hyping up these rain tires, hyping up rain racing, and now I think we kind of figured out like, hey, this was a good try, but there's some things that we can and can't do.
Yeah. So first of all, if you see, I'm rocking my new shirt.
Oh, did you get a COTA shirt? I didn't see it.
What was it?
Nice.
Texas Grand Prix.
Boy, that thing is sharp.
Yeah,
I like
that, and then I got my koozie. So
ooh,
representing
all the swag.
Representing out here. Yeah. I was ready to take off work Monday to go to this race. Like I was like, all right, I'm gonna be taking off work Monday. Like I don't know if this is gonna happen. I know that they're willing to run in the rain, but clearly NASCAR wanted this race to happen. I think for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you want, I actually have a list of pros and cons that I can go through.
Let's let it ride and feed off that.
As a person that actually attended this race, I was sitting there in the pouring rain, making a list of pros and cons. And I was like, you know what? I could go on the podcast and just bitch about everything because I'm good at that. But I'm going to I wanted to come up with a few pros as well. It wasn't all bad. There was some good things that happened this weekend, in my opinion. So we'll just start off with the first thing. You know, we'll go bullet point. Dakota, you can throw out anything you want to throw out there. Number one, the setup was actually pretty sweet. So they had carnival rides all over the place. I actually went on the gas-powered go-karts during the Xfinity race.
Yeah, I seen you on the Garage Guys feed. Y'all were racing and stuff, and I was like, dude, that's a legit little go-kart track outside the track.
Oh, it's legit. It's gas-powered go-karts, the karting, you know, what people talk about.
Yeah.
We had to wear the helmets and everything. It was
that
legit.
There's already dude, that's something to do before or after the races, in between the races. That's a moneymaker right there.
Exactly. It was perfect in between which also I love the double headers as we experienced on Saturday. I love double headers for Truck and Xfinity. It almost makes Saturday at least just as good as Sunday. Obviously, I'm a Cup fan, so I like the Cup races, but I like getting a whole shit ton of content in one day. In terms of
it's
racing.
almost even with the Atlanta doubleheader. It's oh man, just watch that race. Holy crap, let's re-rack them. We're getting another one right here.
Exactly. So it was like that. So I appreciate the double headers. And then in between that, you have these carnival rides, you got the go-karts. They really set this thing up as a full event for people to come to, which I appreciated. I didn't do the carnival rides, but they seemed fun. They had some cool carnival rides out there.
Yeah, imagine if families are there with kids or something, or even first-time race fans are probably not all into everything racing. Something to do.
Yeah. And that kind of bleeds into my next bullet point for a pro was there was a shit ton of people there.
Dude, it looked like it. Literally, they kind of were showing a lot of the track almost like more than other tracks. But I was like, dude, that place, the facility looks exquisite. I know it's like an F1 deal and NASCAR's there, but it was like that place everything looked nice, clean, everything going on. Like it looked like a party.
Yeah, there was a shit ton of people. I mean, all weekend too, but especially today. It was full. I mean, all the grandstands were full because there's they're all over the different turns. Those are all full. When I purchased tickets, I didn't realize GA meant you actually don't have a seat and you just have to kind of like stand around and walk around. So I didn't realize that until Saturday when I went, and then I was like, okay, I'll come prepared. Sunday, I went with my wife. So today, and we took lawn chairs. And
yeah, is that like up on turn 1? Is that's it look like a little grassy hill where you can kind of just post up?
Yeah, so there's grassy hills kind of all around the track that people were walking to. But where I was at, kind of, turn 1 and then turn 2, it's all right there. Yeah. And it's a hill. So that was a really good spot to sit because you could see a lot more of the track than normal. So that's where we went up there. It was a good spot to sit. And there was so many people there, man. I was blown away.
Awesome. And literally, like in the pre-race, they were showing a lot, and you could just hear the fans roar and everything. It kind of like, I don't know, the acoustics right there on the first straight. You could hear fans cheering. I was like, dude, yeah, that's what we want.
It was packed. I was actually surprised because I've been saying this whole time, like Austin is not a city for NASCAR. Austin people don't like NASCAR, which I still stand by because almost every person I talked to was from San Antonio, oddly enough. It was kind of weird. I talked to a lot of random people. I was just kind of sitting around. As you know, when you're at a race, you just kind of, shoot the shit with random people in line or you're sitting next to. Every single person I talked to was from San Antonio. It was very strange.
How far is San Antonio from there?
Hour.
Okay.
San Antonio and Austin are really close.
I got
so I was like, I guess that makes sense. Maybe San Antonio has a lot more NASCAR fans than Austin.
I almost feel like this thing goes off as a home run if it never freaking rained.
So I'm going to get into that. Yeah. My point number 2, kind of bleeding into that last one, was lots of new race fans. And this is the biggest pro. This is the biggest pro, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of the, the bros, with,
boys
dressed,
weekends.
Yeah, dressed with the cutoffs and
cowboy shirts.
Right. They've probably never been to a race, but it's just like, it's something fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
You see them every single year at Dega. You had plenty of that crowd because it's Austin. Yeah. But you had a lot of people with like families and stuff like that. And I was talking to a lot of people just kind of, shooting the shit. Majority of people I talked to was their first race they've ever been to. They have no experience with NASCAR, but they're interested.
Yeah.
And
I hate they got wet.
I know. So I think that was like my biggest takeaway in terms of pro was how many goddamn people there were total. Yeah. But how I would say a majority.
That was 100%, right? Like, I mean, they weren't.
I believe so. Like I said, it's hard to tell because they have like the GA stuff, but I'm pretty sure it was 100%. But I would say majority of the people there, it was their first NASCAR race they've ever experienced.
That's cool.
And so I think this was a success in terms of what NASCAR was trying to do. And what NASCAR was trying to do was find a new market and find a new audience. Yeah. And I think they did that tonight.
The only thing that worries me is, well, we know it's happening, but it's like, they're like, well, this was a success. New fans, new area, new market. Just exactly why we need to do this city course. And it's like, ugh.
All right. So I was going to get into that also. Actually, I have this all listed out.
Dude,
it's
perfect.
Like you're hitting my points.
We're connected.
Exactly. My last pro, and there's some more, but these are like the main ones I was writing down during the race. The last main one was that they are able to race in the rain or shitty weather, which I know, granted, it kind of ended up biting them in the ass at the end. But while I was watching at the beginning, I was like, you know what? At least I'm watching racing. It is raining, but if I was at any other track, I'm having to sit and wait for them to try to dry the track out. Like, at least I'm watching racing.
I literally was texting friends and we were talking about it. And as much as like, I had one buddy, he was like, man, this ain't real racing. Like they're just having to, ride around. They can't really attack the track. And I was like, I get like, maybe it's kind of like hold on and who can hold on the best. But these guys were sending it in some of these corners, man. You just saw them like wheeling off corner. And I was like, that's badass. But if we were at any other tracks, road courses excluded, like we'd be getting rained out till tomorrow. We wouldn't even be seeing the race
100%.
today.
100%.
And I was like,
and even
bravo to
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
bravo to NASCAR for making all these attempts and like making an effort to race in the rain. I mean, there were some drivers' opinions that were very against this afterwards, which I get. But it was like, they're like, we shouldn't be doing this. These cars aren't made for this, blah, blah, blah. But it was like, dude, well, you know who feeds all this? You know who, is the only reason you have a job and a paycheck is the fans. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, that's what we're all here for, is to put on a show. And if NASCAR didn't make these efforts, we wouldn't have watched nothing today. And I guess this would be your first real NASCAR Rain Cup race. And it was cool to see, man. I have a lot of opinions, but it was still cool they put on a show.
Yeah, like I've been to plenty of races where it started to rain and it ruins the whole day. Where either you drive home without getting to watch a race, which has happened countless times to me, or like in Darlington, where you sit and wait 4 hours with your fingers crossed, where they're like, it may or may not happen. You know what I mean?
I think like
and
the
that's
last
usually
5 Daytona trips, I've sat in rain.
Yeah, and that's usually what happens, where you just have your fingers crossed, saying like, should we leave? Should we stay? This one, it wasn't like even a question. They were like, we're running.
Anxiety.
Right. This one, it was never a question. They're like, no, we're running.
Yeah,
we're running.
That's one thing I
it's
love
raining, but we're going.
They were like, hey, we're bringing rain tires, rain or shine, we're racing.
Exactly. And so that was really nice. It's like, as a fan, if you're willing to sit in the rain and watch it, like we were, like, so many people were today.
Yeah.
It worked out. We got to watch. And I mean, it's not ideal, but it is kind of fun watching them fuck around in the rain. It's like, that's difficult.
It's different, dude.
That's so difficult for them to have to like be able to drive like that.
I was telling my wife, I was like, can you look like what? She was like, they're going so slow in some of the corners. And I was like, yeah, I think the low speed was like 27, 29 mile an hour. And I said, but the top speed was like 155 down that chute. And I was like, can you imagine driving 150 in the pouring down rain and then slamming it on the brakes?
Knowing that the turn's about to come. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was like, dude, I mean, I know it's probably uncomfortable, and then we'll get down the show to some points. But
we'll talk about that.
The balls to send this thing 150 down when in the pouring rain. All 3 series too. I don't know. Well, I guess Xfinity didn't really get a whole rain. They had like
not as bad.
Track,
the truck was really bad. The truck was pouring
in the rain. And Friday we had practice qualifying in beautiful sun. And I mean, we got to see what they could do on the track at least. But then like Cup practice Saturday in the rain, and then I guess trucks gave it a good hell of a show in the rain. It was all different, man. Like, who can survive this beast?
I mean, I will say, as I mentioned before, in between Xfinity and truck, I went and did those go-karts.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even raining. It had stopped raining for a while. And those go-karts, I don't know, what do they got, like 40 miles an hour or something? They're gas powered. A turn would come up and you wouldn't even do anything. You would just turn the steering wheel 360.
It would damn.
Right off the whole thing. And I'm like, I can't imagine if you're in a race car.
Right.
What it's like, I'm just trying to turn this damn little go-kart and I'm sending it into the wall every single time. And I think, I don't know, did y'all have like that British commentary guy?
No,
on TV?
Not today. I watched most of the truck race, and then I had to listen to Xfinity race on MRN, which was really nice, actually. But I went back and watched highlights this morning to see anything I missed. And I mean, I don't know his name.
I think he was on MRN. I think it was MRN that he was on. I'm pretty sure today it was the commentary over the speakers at the track, and I think they mentioned it was on MRN.
Maybe I didn't listen to MRN today.
Right.
But then I noticed they had Ralph Shaheen on there too. And I was like, they're probably bringing in more broadcasters just because the track's so damn big. We need more mouths talking about what's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I was like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, they had to like bring in guys like, and you're hearing these guys are all good at their jobs, but like, we're not hearing the same old 3 dudes talking about the race. It's like, man, that's pretty cool.
When I was there waiting in line to get a beer and they're doing the driver announcements, like, and just to hear a British guy being like, and in the 18 car, we have Kyle Busch. It was
I thought that was weird.
Funny. I turned to my wife. I'm like, this is the weirdest thing. Hearing this guy, and a guy in line started laughing because he was like, yeah, that is fucking weird.
Yeah.
Hear a British guy do it. But I did like one thing he said, because I think he does commentary at this track for the F1 race, IndyCar races, MotoGP. And he mentioned, he was saying that I'm sure there's a lot more people with their eyes on NASCAR around the world because they're racing at an F1 track. So it's kind of interesting to see
Right.
how NASCAR drivers are able to handle an F1 track.
Like maybe some diehard F1 fans are like, hey,
And they're just interested. They're like,
yeah,
I wonder what a
I wanna see
NASCAR
what they
driver could
drive
do on
like
that.
there.
Exactly. And so he mentioned that in the broadcast, or at least at the track over
Yeah.
the speakers. And he was like, you know, as a person that watches every race at this track, he's like, I can tell you, like, my respect for these drivers has gone up immensely watching what they're able to do, like on the wet track. Cause he was like, I've seen F1 drivers not be able to handle these turns, like when it's wet. And so he was like, this is so impressive that these drivers can do this. And I was like, that's actually kind of cool getting to hear an F1 fan say that.
There were so many times I've seen clips, and even the broadcast today was like that. I don't know the turn numbers. I don't know COTA enough, but they came off that one where they have the sweep over the turtles, and there's like the runoff, and they just came off sliding sideways, like across the rumble strip, and then straightening it up and like catching the dirt and coming back on. And I was like, dude.
When they go off on the dirt.
Yeah. I was like, they're getting after it.
Even at turn 1 and 2 where I was, you know, the real sharp one. I don't know, you know, if you could see it on TV, but I can tell you being right there next to the cars, because you can get up right next to the fence.
Dude, your videos, I'm like, dude, that looks sick.
I sent you some shit. I'm right next to it.
Yeah. Were you there when Kurt Busch sent it into one?
Yeah.
Oh,
and you can see them every time. You can see just a little bit. They're sliding.
Yeah.
Like they're getting loose a little bit.
Now,
and I was like, I wonder if you can even see that amount of detail on TV, or if it's because I'm this close.
Fox did do a good effort on restarts. I guess they had this drone cam. They would hover over and follow them on the restart all the way through like the first 10 corners.
There was a helicopter going over my head, so it might have been a helicopter.
Maybe it was a helicopter.
Yeah.
But it was an overhead shot, and it was the best angle they had the whole race. Like, they would show,
it was probably that helicopter,
and he would follow them all, coming down like head on towards you, but like from overhead, and you could see guys like when they were gassing, when they're braking, you could see back end sliding out, and it was like, dude, that's a good shot.
Yeah. So, and we're gonna get into Fox actually here in a second, because I think that's gonna be a big topic for discussion on your end as a viewer at home. Because one thing, when I was texting you back and forth, the little service I did have, which is annoying, but at the same time, it is kind of a pro, because you're like, that just goes to show how many people are here watching this race when you don't have service.
Yeah, man. How was the service out there? Because most NASCAR races, your phone's not going to work.
Terrible. Nothing.
I figured.
So that is one thing that maybe, you know, COTA could work on. It's such like a hip, futuristic city. Like maybe they could figure out. They have that huge tower, you know.
Right. They're calling it the pagoda. I don't know what.
That's what it's called.
They're kind of comparing this whole racetrack to Indy. It seemed,
dude.
A little bit. They were kind of comparing it to
the start finish line. So me and my wife, I met up with Dale and Chase and them.
Shout out Dale and Chase,
they actually bought seats down on the start finish line.
Yeah, a lot of their videos were right there.
And because it was raining, there was a couple seats that opened up. So I went down there in stage 3 with my wife.
Today?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
And so that setup right there reminds me of Indy, because you have the pits, and then above the pits are like the suites, and then on the other side is a grandstand, just like Indy, like how they come down that start finish line. That reminds me exactly of Indy. I was sitting there just like, man, this is Indy.
Watching pre-race, like they were walking around pit road. They were walking behind the pit boxes, and the garage is like right there. And I was like, dude, that whole place just looks like state of the art, nice. And then even on the track, like they had the red, white, and blue stars and stripes, like kind of decorated on the outside of the pavement. And I was like, dude, that place is like, this is a nice road course. Like I'm down to like, we can go here and take another one off, if that's what we need to do.
So we're going to get into that. All right, let me go through my cons.
All right, let's open up that can.
Yeah, so my cons, number one, and I think this is just an issue with road courses. I'm not used to going to road course races, but the seating was like just confusing. You know, there's multiple entrances, and it's just like, all right, where are we going to sit? You know, there's grandstands here and here and here and here.
You've been there before, right? You said?
Yeah, but I go there for like rallycross racing, so they shut off like half the track, and they
on
only
Saturday.
Do like half.
Do they have some other series race after the Xfinity race?
Yeah, Lamborghini.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
It was Lamborghinis out there racing. It was wild.
Sounds cool.
I sat and watched it.
Oh,
it was
cool.
wild. Yeah, they do it. It's more like IMSA, or like, so it was like based on like I don't know, they're doing lap times and stuff. I don't know. It was cool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, the seating, in my opinion, it's a con, but it could switch to pro if it wasn't raining, because I do like the idea of kind of just being able to put your seat up anywhere on any grassy hill.
Right.
At the same time, it was just a little confusing. It was just kind of all over the place. That, you know, there's just so many grandstands, and you're like, I don't know where I should sit. Like, what's the best area? It might become better, you know, the more I go there and I figure out like this is the seat you want.
Now that's one thing about like I've never been to a road course race. Always want to. Like I said on a previous episode, Watkins Glen is on my list. I want to go there. Might work that out in the future, but I'm like, well, do I pick a turn and sit there and watch and be like, I'm going to stay here the whole race?
Exactly.
Or do I kind of like, I'm going to watch this stage here, and then I'm going to walk on the caution. I'm going to walk over there and watch the next stage there. Or where do I want to be for the finish of the race? And then I'm like, if I stayed here for the first part and then I go over here for the next part and then something crazy happens in that first part, I'm going to be pissed I moved. And I'm like, what do? You just walk around? I don't know.
So that's my thing, is like on Saturday, we walked around like the whole time, just looking for good spots. Today,
but then I feel like you're like, well, what happened? If you missed something, you don't know.
Today I was with my wife, and I felt like we found a good spot because based on Saturday, I was like, this is kind of the area I liked Saturday. Yeah. So let's go here Sunday. And I think it worked out, but it was definitely, I would say it's a con, but I don't think it's a con just for this track. I would say it's a con for any road course, just because, like you said, it's like, it's just so big. You can't see everything, and it's unfortunate. You know, if you're at like any other oval, hell, even Talladega, the biggest goddamn track, if you're at the very top, you can still barely see them on the other side.
Right. It's so far away.
This track, you can see one little straight, maybe a turn, and that's it.
I think I saw Eric Stepp posted a picture or something, and it was like
I can't hear you. You're mute.
Shoot, I hit my mute button on accident. It was like I seen Eric Stepp on the backstretch, and he like posted a picture and almost looked after one. You could see like a mute or like them coming down the backstretch or something, coming through the S's.
I think he was on like turn 12. He was texting me, telling me where he was at. I couldn't get over there. It was on the opposite side from where I was. I think he was on turn 12. He probably knows. I think he's been to this track a few times, so he probably knows where to sit to like where he could get the best view. So like I said, it's a con, but it's not the worst con. Like that one could come around for me, but just in terms of what I experienced, I would say seating was kind of an issue, and just having to kind of figure out where you want to be. It's almost like if you've ever been in a golf tournament where it's like, should I go to the best hole and just stand there? Should I follow a golfer the whole time? It's kind of like that.
That's one thing I've noticed, like it's totally different. With the Masters, I'm like, do you go and stay at the 18th hole?
That's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good analogy. Is like, I wonder, where do you stand at? And then they have grandstands. Like, do you go sit in seats, or do you bring your chairs, like embrace the lawn atmosphere?
Yeah. I will say the lawn atmosphere was a lot of fun. I do like that style. It would be cool to
just bring some lawn chairs and a cooler and like chill out. Or I think some places you can bring a tent or something, but I don't know. Or you know what I've always wanted to do? I've never been there, but maybe if I went there more than once.
You just listed like 3 things. It's about to be my cons, but go on.
Is go to Phoenix and sit on that Rattlesnake Hill and
yes,
you have a tent.
Yes,
you can tailgate. Yes. You can tailgate and look and watch the whole race. I'm like, if I went to Phoenix, that's what I'd want to do.
That looks so fun. Yeah. Whenever I see that. Yeah.
You're really tailgating, but you get to watch the race.
Right. My number 2 for cons is camping. Granted, the weather was an issue.
I imagine it would have been shit this weekend if you were camping.
But there's nowhere to camp. Like Austin is not, and I said this before this race even
it's a hotel track, huh? It's hotel track.
No, because there's no goddamn hotels around. I mean,
really?
It's 30 to 40 minutes outside the city.
Yeah.
And there's nothing.
Well, you could stay in Austin in a hotel and drive there, right?
Yeah, you can drive there. It's just like you can't. It's expensive ass Uber. There's nothing around the track. Nothing. It's out in fields. Yeah. I mean, it's
so imagine if people were driving out there to camp, it was shit.
It's almost like it should be set up for camping because there's nothing around it, almost like Talladega. Mm-hmm. But it's like closer to the city, almost like Atlanta. But in Atlanta, there's like hotels and restaurants kind of in that area. So it's this weird in between, but there's not really camping out there. And a big thing that I wanted to mention was I was with, Dale and Chase from Garage Guys Fantasy Sports podcast, and I met up with them to do their camper thing because they're doing their whole thing, right?
Yeah, I was looking forward to like, hey man, cool, you're gonna get up with them on their little
So
tour.
was
It's
I.
gonna be some cool meetup.
I met up with them Friday night, Saturday. I mean, we met up I was at their place like every night.
Yeah.
The first place they go to, I wish I could remember, Roez Camping.
I think they posted it was like a lake out there or something.
So anybody that ever comes to Austin, don't go there. That place is run by fucking dipshits. They're pieces of shit. I hope they go out of business. I hope they lose their fucking property. It was terrible.
Jesus.
It was awful. No, they were pieces of shit. So they show up there, and the people are like, hey, are you vaccinated?
Oh, what the?
And Chase is like, I didn't know that was a requirement to stay here.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, it's not a requirement, but like, then we prefer you have your mask on. He's like, well, we're just gonna be chilling like around our little area. So like, it's all good. There's nobody around us. We're good.
Dude, I'd be offended.
And so they like went around apparently and told every single person in the campsite that they're not vaccinated.
Did people give a shit? Or
they said people gave a shit, but I'm pretty sure nobody would have given a shit.
Yeah.
And then I show up to hang out with them, and they're like weirded out that I'm there, even though there's now a combined 3 people. They have a giant RV that probably sleeps like 8 goddamn people. Yeah. There's 3 guys there just chilling. We're not even outside. We're inside the camper because it's raining and shit.
Yeah.
They come up, knock on the door, and try to politely tell them they need to leave.
Dude,
yeah. It was Saturday when this happened, and it was so fucking weird. It was like Saturday morning before the race. I was there with them. And they were like, so everyone here is a little uncomfortable, like with you.
You're at a goddamn NASCAR race, you dumb fucks. Like, oh my God.
And so they have to pack up and leave, like with nowhere to go.
I'd be offended.
Thankfully, we found a parking lot like at the track.
Okay. I noticed I didn't see a lot of like the tailgate stuff they were doing.
There was no, so that's my next point. For cons, there's no tailgating. Nobody was tailgating. Nobody was camping. And I said this in our podcast before this race even happened, that I've been to this track before 4 races, and nobody tailgates or camps or anything. It's that's like weird, you show up and you walk in the race.
I would kind of think like, hey, it's Texas, man. Go big or go home. But I mean,
Texas Motor Speedway, they do all those things.
Okay.
It's just this track. It's F1. Nobody camps and tailgates for F1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're probably a little on the side too, you know.
So nobody was tailgating or doing anything fun. Us 3 like shotgun beers in the parking lot. Like,
I know that's what I was waiting for all weekend. When I seen it, I was like, that's my boy right there.
People around there were like cheering, like, woo! Probably because we were the only fucking people shotgunning beers.
Look at those rednecks.
It was sad. I think people were like, this is what we came to NASCAR to see. Yeah. Where people do this shit.
People come back and are like, hey, can you do that again?
Yeah, it was just sad. The atmosphere was not NASCAR. What's he saying? They said on the broadcast that normally they sell around 500 camping spots this weekend. They sold over 1,000. I mean, I saw some like RVs, but nobody was tailgating. Nobody, they had some RVs there.
Maybe they
for
slept
sure.
There.
Right, they had RVs there, and people were sleeping there, but you could walk around. Nobody was partying or tailgating or doing anything fun.
Well, maybe I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you said there was a lot of new fans. Do you think there's a lot of new campers? Maybe they didn't know what they can.
No, I think the campers were the NASCAR fans that were like showing up for NASCAR. Yeah. You know, I just
nobody
think
was getting rowdy, is what you're.
Nobody. Saying. It's not like that there. It's not. You know, it's not
maybe
like
we should give it a
NASCAR.
few years. Maybe we should give it a few years. NASCAR comes back. People know what to expect.
Well, the track needs to change for this to work. The track needs to have a lot more.
Stay open for another year.
So there's another thing I wanted to get into. The track needs to kind of, reestablish itself, or at least rework itself during the NASCAR race. Mm-hmm. And Nathan, yes, I already mentioned the raining didn't help, but there wasn't. You had to have been there to see what I'm trying to say.
I'm hearing you.
There was one section for RVs. That's it. There was no other area for camping. And that's not because of the rain. They really didn't have like sections like when you go to Talladega and stuff like
Even
that.
before it
where
rained,
there's
it was like this.
right where there's areas like roped off for camping. That's just not a thing at this racetrack. It never has been. So I'm not saying that, you know, they didn't do it. I said this in the last episode. That's not what they do out here. And so I think it really kind of was a bummer. I mean, you can ask Chase and Dale, and I guarantee they'll say the same thing. The atmosphere, the environment outside of the track was a huge bummer, huge disappointment. Yeah. It was less rowdy than a local dirt track. I mean, it was a bummer. Just because, like you said, a lot of first-time NASCAR fans, so they're just parking and walking in. You know, I'm sure they don't really know. I'm not putting it on them. I don't think they really know what to do. It's just the track wasn't set up for it. They didn't want it, I don't think.
I'll give I mean, that sucks, but then I'm also like, well, this was the first go. So maybe they open up some different stuff. Maybe stuff's a little different if they go back there, which I assume they will. But then I'm also like, well, that kind of sucks because you're kind of expecting like, hey, Texas COTA first race, this big-ass place. And then it seems like everybody's like.
My concern is that they're not going to change. They like sold out. They did so well. COTA's probably going to be like, why would we add all that shit? We did so well last time. Like, who fucking cares? You know, it's probably more work for them to have more people camping out and doing all that shit rather than just drive in for the race. You know what I mean? That's probably easier on them. Mm-hmm. I would assume. The RV stuff aside is fine, but they just have like this one RV section. It's not like the whole area is filled up with RVs. It was like back there. It was like off turn 3, I think, around that area. There was just on top of the hill. There was a section for RVs. It looked fun. You know, they had an area to walk in and out of.
Did you make a lap around the whole track? Or?
Yeah. And I went over by the RV area, and it seemed cool enough. You know, it just didn't seem like fucking. If this is your RV section, you know what I mean?
Right.
This is where you go. It didn't seem rowdy. It seemed like just any old RV park. You know?
Yeah.
So.
I'm glad you got to go to your first road course race, I guess, even though this is a barn burner of a road course race and not in a good way. But, I mean, I'm glad you at least had something for your pros list.
Yeah. Moving on. We already kind of discussed this. I figure we can get a little bit more into it. You know what? No. I'll get to that one in a second because that's going to turn into a whole nother conversation. Yeah. But to this one, kind of to wrap up the tailgate, camping, that whole thing, is no coolers, no BYOB, no coolers, no food, no nothing, no bags.
Wow, you can't even bring. Could you bring a drink without a cooler?
No.
Walking with a beer?
No, nothing.
You only had to buy anything.
Here's the rule.
Could you bring a clear bag?
Here's the rule. One clear bag, and the only like liquid you can take in is an unopened clear water bottle. One.
What the fuck is
just
that?
One, too. Not even like a couple.
You think that was COTA or like Texas?
That's COTA.
That sucks.
Because Texas Motor Speedway's BYOB cooler.
That's almost like a deal breaker. Like
exactly. When I found out, I was like, I might not go. Then on top of that,
what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Well, beers there. Granted, they're all tall boys. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
But when you were telling me like send picture shotgunning, they're $9, and I'm like, honestly, you were like, send me video shotgunning, and I'm like, I don't really want to fucking waste $9 to send you a shotgunning video.
Man, yeah, that's like even the clear bag thing all fucking annoys me. But that would really suck. Like I'd be
no
pissed.
Coolers.
I'd be
no
pissed.
Coolers at all. On top of that, so you can't bring in food obviously either. But on top of that, today all the food ran out on stage 2.
Are you really like
the whole place? Yeah. Just ran out of food, and during stage 2.
Oh man, that is like, what the fuck are you supposed to do? You can't bring a drink. What if someone's like on a budget and like,
well, you can't.
Hey, man,
you can't go here on a budget.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like, hey man, I brought enough food, but like I can't afford your cheeseburgers, and you ran out. So I bought a beer earlier, so now I can't eat. Like what the fuck are people supposed to? That's kind of
nothing.
Shitty.
They don't care.
Shitty. And that's the stuff. That's the stuff too. Is like NASCAR's not gonna talk about that. Fox isn't gonna talk about that. No one's gonna talk about that. So then if someone's like, man, I'm going to COTA next year, they're not going to know about that.
Everyone listening to this podcast, if you want to go to COTA, I want you to know that right now. The tailgating's weak, pretty much non-existent. The camping's non-existent, except for like one RV section. and there's literally no coolers allowed, BYOB is completely off limits. Like, that is not going to happen. Furthest thing from it. And beers are $9. And
Jeez.
food is $15 for one sandwich.
Oh, that's a bummer too.
So,
it's like
you need to know that.
One thing is like I heard that the new Talladega infield area I've yet to visit. They said that you have to buy a ticket to get in, but however that the food and drink prices are exceptionally low. Like it's like $4 for a cheeseburger, or like $2 for a Coke, and it's like because you bought a ticket to get in there, they kind of make it normal. But it's like most normal races, you're preparing to eat or bring your own drinks or anything.
Yeah, you bring your own shit. That everybody knows.
You don't plan on buying the $11 beer and $20 cheeseburger.
And Texas Motor Speedway is the same way.
Yeah,
it's coolers. You bring whatever you want, just like Talladega or Darlington or Kansas. Any of them are like that.
Right.
This is a COTA thing, and honestly, it makes me a little nervous. Like for the other tracks, I don't want to see this become a trend.
Well, like Nathan was telling me, he was just telling me this past week that, some tracks are doing it, some tracks aren't, but that Charlotte next week or this coming next weekend will be clear bags only, no coolers allowed. And it's a huge bummer. I've had to go through this the last bullshit year. Is like, hey man, like we got to bring coolers to Dega, but we couldn't bring a cooler into Atlanta. Like what the hell is that shit? And it's like, dude, I'm traveling.
But at least in Atlanta, we were able to bring beers. Are they going to allow beers at Charlotte?
No, you're allowed to bring beer in a clear bag. So we're gonna have to do the whole ice bucket challenge.
I think for that, they probably just want to speed up security because with the coolers, you're supposed to open them and blah blah blah.
It's whole COVID bullshit, but
it has nothing to do with COVID. I mean, COVID has nothing to do with transmitting anything between a see-through bag or opening a cooler. I mean, that's just absurd. People will say like, "Oh, why did you change?
I agree.
Why did you change your business hours because of COVID?" Like, what? That doesn't fucking make sense.
No, I get it. I mean,
they'll blame COVID, but
that's what I'm saying. They're like, "Whoa, less contact." I'm like, dude, I'm bringing beer in this bitch. Leave me alone.
So yeah. Also, David, I want to point out they sold out of food by stage 2, so they would not have made any more money by lowering food prices. I mean, they sold out, so clearly people were buying food. I bought food, because you had to. I mean, goddamn, you're hungry in the middle of the day,
right?
And then you're buying these beers for $9 a piece. I mean, I spent so much money this weekend for buying beer and food at the track.
I usually I'm going to bring food or I'm going to eat before I go. But then all of a sudden I drink a couple beers. It's stage 2. I'm going to the bathroom. I'm like, oh my God, cheeseburger sounds so good.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are my biggest negatives, my biggest cons. And it makes me almost not ever want to go to this race again because of the no cooler policy alone. And not allowing me to bring in beer. That almost makes me not want to go back to this race if they have it again here next year.
I almost wanted to ask you because I was like, well, it's kind of a no-brainer because it's right there and it's NASCAR. But I was like, so let's say if you were maybe a San Antonio or just an out-of-town guest, would you come back to this race?
Yeah. So I think my biggest takeaway is the racing itself. Oh, okay. You're just going to leave during that episode.
No, just,
the racing itself. I've never, been to a road course race. It was interesting. It was a little interesting to get to watch a road course race. Getting to sit on the lawn was kind of fun. There was some good things about it. They had the whole carnival setup. They have the go-karts. So it's kind of a fun little setup, but for me to be able to to tell anybody that they should go to this race, for me to rate this race, to be like, hey, I recommend NASCAR fans attend this race. The track, seriously, number one, the most important thing they have to do, number one, is allow people to bring beers in. Even if it's in clear bags, I don't care.
Yeah,
they need to allow fans to bring beers in.
That's kind of almost a deal breaker for me.
It's not even a NASCAR event if you can't bring beers in. I mean, that's just absurd. Number 2 and 3, I guess, kind of combined, is they need to work on the camping and the tailgating. They need to bring that atmosphere back in, because I can tell you this much: a lot of people talk shit about Texas Motor Speedway, and I understand why. But at least when I go to Texas Motor Speedway, I know I'm going to be tailgating and partying with people in the parking lot or in the grassy camp areas.
Are you going to the All-Star?
I was talking to my wife about that, actually, so we'll bring it back. But
I
know
when you go to All-Star, you ought to be just holding your bag of beer and be like,
this is how you do it.
So, yeah.
Right.
At least one track gets it right, COTA.
So honestly, if COTA doesn't change that, I don't think I'd recommend anybody go here.
Damn, really? That's the deal breaker for you.
I mean, would it not be for you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'd be fucking livid.
How many beers? How many tall boys would you drink at a race?
Like 2, 3, or like well, you get up in price. We're talking about $50 in beer here.
Well, I'm just saying, if you didn't have to pay, like how many would you be drinking?
Oh, tall boys, at least like 8.
Okay. So, what they were like? What did I say? $9 a piece. So $72. You would have spent $72 on beer.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just, if we're having to buy beer at the track, we're gonna go ahead and bump them numbers down, get them way down. We're gonna do like 2.
So you see what I'm saying? Like that's almost a deal breaker. That's like a big part of going and watching NASCAR. Drinking beers and having a good time. Yeah.
Hey, you want to have happy fans? Let them bring what the hell they want.
Yeah, and so I think the track needs to work on this. Yeah, Nathan got your ass. All right, Nathan, coming out
that's nice. That's typical contrarian Nathan.
The contrarian Nathan, yeah.
Yep, that's my word now.
So I think that I think NASCAR needs to talk to the track. What is it? I think it's SMI is who runs this track. And so
didn't they like rent it? Like, hey, we're gonna rent out COTA.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
Let us come there and stuff.
So I think NASCAR needs to kind of talk to them and be like, hey, like this needs to happen for us next year. Like these are kind of our stipulations. It sounds like the track is in like financially not the greatest place right now. I'm sure they love having a NASCAR event there. I mean, shit, they sold out. I mean, it was packed to the brim all weekend. They probably love that shit.
Do you think NASCAR gives a shit what the fans paying on beers inside the track?
No. But if it's up to me, this is what NASCAR needs to do. They need to say, hey, you need to allow coolers or at least beers in clear bags, whatever. You need to allow people to bring in beers. You need to open up some more areas for RVs and or camping. And so we can encourage tailgating because it just was non-existent. This would be a great race for people to attend, I think, if all those things happened. And if that's the case, I'd say keep it on the schedule. It's fun. It's a good city to go to, but just let's ignore the whole like Chicago street course thing.
Yeah,
let's pretend that's not
inevitably some sort of street course is going to happen. That's another thing. It's like, so what are they going to do about restaurants, businesses, and people that have to work in these fucking cities? I mean, that's a whole nother subject for another episode, but it's like, that whole shit pisses me off. But yeah, even your like not even financial, but it's like you bitching about, hey, I can't bring my own beer that I could buy and bring in here. You want me to buy your expensive ass shit, and then you run out of food. The audacity is like, dude, that's just a whole mess in itself.
It was a mess. I mean, it was a mess, honestly.
Shit show. Almost goes right along with the race itself.
I was going to say, not to mention like the rain. And so this was my last con, and something that I thought you would have a lot to talk about was when I was watching it, the view was an issue. And I was like, okay, Dakota actually probably got to watch this whole race in its entirety a lot better than I did, because I can see the start finish line coming off that. And then I can see them on turns 1 and 2, and then a little bit as they're going away. But that's all I get to see, which is unfortunate for a road course. You don't really get to see much of the racing. So while I was sitting there, I wrote that as a con, and I'm like, okay, thankfully Dakota is going to be able to have like a much better view of this. And you texted me pretty much just bitching about Fox, so I kind of wanted to hear your take on this,
dude. And I hate to be such like a Twitter naysayer, but it's like Fox has been doing one of their best seasons. They have been knocking it out of the park, stepped up the bar from their previous seasons. However, they took the ball and fucking threw it down the drain today, and they really fucked up a lot. And that one thing I was like, okay, give them, they'll get it together. But it was like one thing after a fucking another. They were stumbling over their ass. Clint was trying to save it with his jokes. And it was like, dude, like, so we kept getting like, a little spin over here. Something goes off track over here. They'd be like, let's get a replay going. And they'd show a replay 2 laps later. And then while they're showing the replay, something else would be happening on the track. So they'd play the replay. And then they come back and, like, Kyle Busch goes by. And they're like, let's show you what else happened while we were doing that. And they'd show another replay. And it was like, the whole thing was just like, dude, who's running this shit? Like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing, dude? Show the fucking race. And then there was one little good battle where Austin Cindric was in, like, third, holding up the line, and everybody was backing up, and it was like 8 cars in a line trying to juke and jive everybody, and that was some good coverage. But it was like, dude, one thing after another. They kept, and then another thing, like, I'm all about some replays, but it was like they'd show a replay 12 times. I'm like, dude, we saw it. Like, what's going on in the race right now? I already saw that replay. Like, I want to see who's taking tires, who's getting gas. Like, dude, what are y'all doing? It just, it was rough. And then getting on Twitter and stuff, I'm like, I'm not the only one thinking this shit. People are like, dude, this is trash. This is garbage. And I'm usually trying to stay positive, but man, Fox was screwing the pooch today.
Yeah. That's really unfortunate because I was hoping that, you kind of had a better view of this race. But now, it sounds like
I probably got to see better angles than you, seeing the whole track.
I would hope so. Jesus.
But it like there was times they would show one battle and they'd kind of flip their little angles, and I'd be like, well, let's go. You'd see somebody, they'd be showing like the battle for 6, and then you'd see somebody in the background just like go fucking flying off the track. And you'd be like, whoa, what? And there'd be no replay, no coverage of it. They never say a word about it. And you'd be like, dude, I swear I just saw somebody drive off the track back there. Like, what happened? And it was just, but I get it's a big road course, new. Maybe they'll have better angles the next time. Maybe they were filling it out. But I was just like, man, dude, this is, besides the race itself and what happens with the race, like, it was already like, dude, this is rough. This is really rough.
So how'd you feel? What was it, Ryan Priest that said, like, I'm not trying to be a baby, but, like, we can't see out here, something like that?
I didn't see any of that. What are you talking? I didn't even know. Ryan Priest got up there for a minute.
I know. I want to say it was Ryan Priest. I apologize if I'm getting the driver wrong. They said, I'm not trying to be a baby, but I can't see out here and it's getting dangerous. My opinion, when anybody says I'm not trying to be a baby, but I mean,
here's my standpoint. First quarter of the race, I'm like, man, this is wild. These guys are sending this thing in here. They're driving in the rain. And then I think I wasn't there, but it looked like it started to rain more. Like after the first quarter. It never downpoured. It was just always raining. It wasn't accumulation of rain.
Exactly. It was always light.
They were
rain.
showing onboards, and I was like, well, I'm sure he's got like a windshield wiper, but I can't see shit. Like on the onboard, I was like, dude, I don't see anything in front of him. You just like see a faint little light or something.
Right. Those blinking lights from the car in front of him. Yeah.
And I mean, Kevin aside, whatever anyone wants to say, all of a sudden I'm on Kevin's radio and I just hear, guys, we just got dumped. Like it's junk. The car's screwed. And Kevin's like, oh my God. Like, I don't know what happened. Somebody got into me. And then they were on commercial and they come back and they're just showing Christopher Bell getting out of the car and taking his helmet off. And you're like, dude,
what happened? What happened in that wreck? Because I didn't see it and they never showed a replay.
With the Fox fucking broadcast, we don't know. They never fucking showed a replay. The only replay they have is Christopher Bell coming sideways across the straightaway with his nose crushed in.
I heard
somebody got into him.
The announcers, at least at the track, they were talking. The British guys seemed to be talking about it. And he said something about Bubba Wallace hitting him, and then he was like, "Oh, it's not." Okay.
This is why I come to Christopher Bell got dumped into a wall. Kevin Harvick's checking up. I was on a scanner. They said, the record in front of you, Kevin, check up.
Okay.
Kevin checks up way down the straight. He's behind us. And Bubba Wallace comes balls deep flying in there. I don't know what Freddie Kraft relayed to him or whoever's on they had multiple spotters for this race. I don't know who relayed the message, but Bubba never got it. And Bubba comes in there 100% throttle, and Kevin's done laid off on the brake, blowing up.
Right.
And Bubba Wallace, like the only view we have is Kevin's on board. Like you hear him let off and like boom, boom, letting off the shifting down. And all of a sudden his car goes off in the air and you're looking at the ground and then he hits the inside wall. Like Bubba Wallace just slammed him. And my whole thing was like, dude, don't they always have cameras on Bubba's car with all this bullshit?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like, let's get it on board of that because this would have been prime.
Well, they're not going to show that.
No. So Bubba creams Kevin. That totals all three. But I don't know how Christopher Bell got totaled. All they showed us was the little rendering of on-track telemetry, and Bubba. It shows the 23 hitting the 4 and stopping.
Okay.
And then this is the caution before the caution where Michael McDowell's ran a great race today, and he checks up. And I'm literally watching, and you just see him check up, getting early in the corner, and the 19 just plows into him, and the hood folds over the thing over his windshield.
Right, that one.
And then all of a sudden, you see the 41 coming in there, and just flips the 19 almost, dude. And like, and then he hits inside wall. I literally was like,
you were
oh my
describing
God.
this wreck like a 10-year-old child would,
Dude. I don't give a shit what you think. And I was like, oh my
he comes
fucking
in there.
God.
Oh, pow,
Yeah, dude, I was like, oh my God. And it was so bad. Like, I was like, dude, I hope they're okay. This was scary. And then they showed the onboard of the 19, dude. Because I saw what, like, Jacob was shouting out, like, dude, they can drive, man. Be a man about it. No, they showed the 19 onboard. And, like, he said, I never saw the 34 at all. They got blinking lights. On the onboard, you just see, like, boom, he just hits the 34. You never see it. Like, you don't see the car at all.
So it sounds like you think they shouldn't have been driving, but I thought you were in the camp that they should have.
Well, my whole thing is if we were going to do this, we should have done it all day. Is if, hey, we're going to let them fucking race in this crazy-ass dangerous rain, then let them race the whole damn race. Don't race all – we just totaled 10 cars, and then all of a sudden we think it's a little scary at the end. Let's just call it because Chase is leading. That was my whole point.
I will say this is when they did call that caution, it started actually coming down. Like for the first time all day,
okay,
it actually started raining hard, and it looked like it was going to continue to rain hard for a bit.
My whole point was drive at your own fucking risk at that point. We already let these other guys do it, so y'all can do it.
So that's actually my point for the entire race was I think it was Ryan Preece that said this, and I apologize if it wasn't, when he said, like, I'm not trying to be a baby, but we can't see out there. My whole thing is like, well, you don't have to drive. I mean, I know it'll hurt your team and hurt
pit.
Right. Stuff
Lay
like
off,
that.
let the other guys go by you.
Right. It'll hurt. I get it. And it's your career. You don't want to ruin it. But if you feel like it's unsafe and you don't want to drive, and those other guys are saying, fuck it, I'll drive.
Yeah.
Why penalize the guys that are willing to drive? I mean,
And
I
then,
don't know. It's just,
I know, like, I expect Truex to give a fucking crazy interview. He was kind of tame, and like, I couldn't see. I don't think Custer could see. He plowed into me. It's dangerous. And Kevin was fucking livid. I get it. And I was just more like, it was a racing deal. It sucks. We're racing in the rain. It is what it is. It was highly dangerous. I will agree. This is fucking dangerous as shit. Like, I think I almost like it's so on the fence, man. Like, hey, it was rain when it's raining too hard, you can't see shit. Like, that's too much. But don't sit here and we just did that shit in the first stage and second stage, but then the third stage, call it dangerous.
so it seems like the reason it was so dangerous is they can't see, you know?
Yeah.
So is there just a way that we could have better windshield wipers or something, a better way to be able to see?
I think they can definitely look into more technology and equipment to maybe like, hey, if there's going to be a road course, go ahead and bring all that shit. And if there's going to be a rain race, possibly bring all that shit.
Because I like the idea of them being able to race when it's raining if they're at a road course. I appreciate that. So if the issue is, visuals, them not being able to see out of their car, then let's fix that. Let's not just say, oh, it's sprinkling a little bit, so we're going to have to call
effort, but if anything, the consistency. If we were going to call this race, we should have called it in the first stage. We should have called it before Kevin wrecked. If you were going to call it for rain, call it then. Don't call it at the end with 14 to go.
So I do want to mention that I did say my lock of the week was going to be Chase Elliott. If you remember.
I was thinking it when Kyle was leading. I was like, dude, I picked the 18 out of nowhere. The 18's leading.
I liked it when Kyle was leading too. I was like, God damn.
And I was like, man. And then when Chase won, we never talked about it, but I was like, son of a bitch. I have it. I was in another bet with some buds, and I picked Chase this weekend, and I got double points. I'll take it.
Yeah, I don't even remember what my wild card was. Do you?
I think you said Christopher Bell.
Yeah, I probably did.
Well,
that sounds about right.
Shit. That was one thing I was like, man, I picked Kyle Busch. It was all right. There was throughout the race, dude, I know it was a rain race, but there was plenty of opportunities for like underdogs to capitalize. Ryan Preece was up there. Christopher Buescher was up there. Austin
Michael
Cindric
McDowell,
33 with 10 cards. Michael McDowell was ruling it. Ross Chastain, dude, I was like, dude, Ross has a chance to win this shit. Like, he was P3 for a while. I was like, dude.
Allmendinger.
He finished before
Allmendinger
his fuck up.
Finished top 5, right?
Yeah. Before his fuck up, Kurt Busch was showing speed. I was like, dude, Ganassi is not like balls deep in this.
Yeah, thing. I mean, so it was 1, Chase Elliott, 2, Kyle Larson, 3, Joey Logano. No surprise there. Those are 3 names.
Dude, Joey is an underrated road course racer. And Kyle
is he
Larson
underrated? I feel like people know that he's good.
Well, my buddy Justin, the diehard Logano fan, we were texting before the race, and I was like, dude, I think Logano is going to be a force today. He was like, well, he's so on the road courses. I was like,
Is
well,
he?
he's actually pretty good. He almost won Daytona. And
Right. I thought he was actually pretty solid.
He's got a Watkins Glen win. I think he's an underrated road course racer.
Interesting.
I don't know. But Kyle Larson with these top twos, bro.
Man. Poor guy. Number 4, Ross Chastain.
My boy Ross, dude. Good finish for him. That's the best finish of the year.
Number 5, AJ. I mean, we're just like, I'm listing guys that you don't see. Number 6, Chase Briscoe. Number 7, Michael McDowell. I mean,
nice. Hey, Tyler Reddick.
Awesome.
Tyler Reddick with the peanut. Tyler Reddick was up there leading, dude. He got the pole. Yeah. Shout out RCR for getting the pole. And Tyler Reddick was willing and dealing. I was listening to his scanner after Kevin wrecked. And I was like, dude, it'd be so cool if Tyler Reddick won. I was like, it'd be cool for you because you're there. And
I will say Tyler Reddick had a shit ton of merch. People were rocking a shit ton of Tyler Reddick gear.
Did you see when he kind of fucked up and he went inside AJ and spun out? That killed his whole day, it seemed.
No, I did not because, like I said, I could barely see anything, and they never showed me goddamn replays.
They were all like taking advantage of each other in corners, and it was kind of like a rookie mistake-ish. Like Reddick dove inside AJ when AJ was turning, and when he hit his side, it just spun the 8 right around, and he fell back to like 18th after the spin.
So Austin Dillon also for RCR should have finished P10.
He was doing good before he made that mistake.
Up. Yeah, he was running top 10 there at the end. And I knew that they were going to call it, honestly, when it started raining a little bit harder. And I was like, oh, I think he's still top 10. And then when they called it, I was like, where's he at? And then I saw he was like 12. And I was like, damn it, just outside. But either way, yeah, this race, we saw so many new names running up in the top 5 like the entire time. So that was a lot of fun. Obviously, we see Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott and Joey Logano. We see those guys up front, obviously. But other than that, I mean, it was a lot of fun in terms of getting to see new names up there.
Yeah, no, the LTC boys at Left Turn Colt, they were texting me during the race like, yeah, man, this race is crazy. Sorry for Kevin. And I was like, dude, have y'all seen this top 10 right now? Even throughout the race, I was like, there's some Corey LaJoie drove up to P5 in the stage 2. Or he was battling for P5. I think he got 6 maybe. He was battling almost for a top 5 in stage 2. That is huge for that team.
Right. Yeah. Also, I mean, let's just give a shout out to Michael McDowell, though. Again.
Yeah.
That guy
is rolling.
That guy has proven that he is more than just a Daytona 500 winner. Like, he's actually contending with that team. It is wild to see what he's been able to put together. Right. Also, I wanted to mention Bubba Wallace. I meant to mention this earlier. Bubba Wallace got wrecked out, right?
Yeah.
And so I was listening because I'm like, I'm going to hear applause, right? You know, that's what everyone talks about. And there was some people cheering. And then they showed Kevin Harvick getting out, way louder cheers.
Yeah.
And so my point was, and I think I mentioned this in our text messages, is, you know, let's get over the fact that people are going to applaud if Bubba Wallace gets wrecked. If you're a driver that puts yourself out there like he does, like Kyle Busch does, like Joey Logano does, some people will applaud when you get wrecked out. That's just the fact. You hear a lot more applause.
Every time Kyle Busch wrecks.
You hear way more. When Kyle Busch wins a race, the whole place boos in unison. Yeah. I mean, at a certain point, if you're a Bubba Wallace fan, you should start wearing that as a badge of honor. That your driver is so known and so popular at this point, right? That people are either happy or upset when anything happens to him.
Haters are my motivators.
Austin Dillon can get wrecked out and no one cares. I'm the only guy there. I'm like, damn it. But like at a certain point, I think I'd rather have people just have some, express some emotion.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I wrote down that I want to mention. That at a certain point, Bubba Wallace fans just start wearing it as a badge of honor. You know,
right?
People react to what he's doing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Shit, he's so much merch. That one didn't surprise me because I've seen a lot of that 23 merch. This is my 3rd race this year.
Right.
Seen a shit ton of that merch, but the one that really threw me off was the Tyler Reddick merch. I don't know if that shit was on sale. You know the yellow shirt I have, that one that I got with you?
Which one?
It was that yellow Tyler Reddick shirt.
Yeah, I remember you got it at Dega, I think.
Dude, it was everywhere today.
Really?
I don't know if it was like 50% off, but it was everywhere. I went up to one guy. It was a father and then his little son in matching yellow Tyler Reddick shirts. And it was like the 30th guy I've seen with that shirt. So I just had to talk to him. I was like, so you big Tyler Reddick fan? And he was like, honestly, no, I was always a Jimmy Johnson fan. And so
So you
this
jumped
is
the
the
date. Okay.
So yeah, he was like, "This is the first like NASCAR race I saw they had in Austin, and I wanted to take my son. He'd never been to a NASCAR race before,
Oh, cool.
and he was like, we just showed up and we were looking through some merch, and he was like, I've been hearing about Tyler Reddick. I like that he runs high. He was like, is either going to be that or Kyle Larson, and he just picked it. So I just thought that was interesting.
Okay,
I was like,
yeah.
I guess Tyler Reddick's kind of building up an audience with new fans.
I got him in my handful of guys I'm scouting. I mean, I like
exactly.
him. I like
so
Reddick, dude.
good for him. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, a lot of new fans out there, and I saw a lot of Reddick stuff.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So at the end of the day, how would you grade this race as a viewer on TV?
Well, one thing like we didn't get into, well, I guess we kind of dabbled, but I'm just so salty about this call, dude. I'm usually like, hey man, it is what it is, whatever. But I'm fucking livid about this rate. Hey, Chase is 2 laps short, 14 to go. It's raining heavy, I guess. Let's call it.
So
And
is this the worst race of the year for you?
Well, besides I think if we don't have rain, we have a fucking crazy good race. The rain really put a damper on it. The rain kind of made it its own fucking weird race. More of NASCAR just pissing me off. I think the racing was good, but however, the outcome is fucking awful to me.
Okay.
Like,
so
it was
you see
manipulated.
promise
To me,
there.
it was manipulated. Completely manipulated. I think if we come back next year, I think we see amazing race and some sunshine possibly. I would like to maybe see a different out. Even if this goes green the rest of the way, Chase Elliott wins, and I'm not mad. Up until the moment they called the race, I was fine. I was kind of like, man, this is really dangerous with that rain. If it rains too hard, we can't race in it. But then when they call it, it was like, dude, you can't go back on what you just let happen.
Right.
Like,
so it wasn't the worst race. You see some promise there, but Fox needs to figure that shit out. And NASCAR
there's more
needs
of
to figure
Fox
that
and
shit out.
NASCAR. I was fine with the product on track. I was fine with racing. I saw, love the battles, love everybody's throwing some elbows on these road courses. Love the racing. NASCAR being a douche and Fox being dumb as fuck is what put a damper on this for me.
In terms of road course racing, I usually don't like it. What I did see though, I was interested. Like you said, I like them seeing, kind of bumping elbows there on turns. Just they're not putting each other into the wall or anything, but they're like, hey, I'll move you, if I got to. So in terms of product on the track, from what I could see, which was like a third of the race, not even, I actually did enjoy it for a person that doesn't like road course racing. And in terms of attending the race, as I said, it's hard for me to recommend this to any NASCAR fans until they allow coolers and or better camping and tailgating set up. So I would give it for attendance. I'd give it a passing grade, a C.
I'd be okay. Like, I'm okay if we come back here. I'm fine with that. I'd maybe. Like,
I'm okay with coming back, but like I said, they need to allow
that can be
coolers.
fixed out.
They
could
need
get
to
some
coolers.
better camera work, and NASCAR cannot be a bitch.
Yeah, they have some kinks to work out, big time.
Yes.
But I think there's a lot of promise here. I think it could work.
Hey, we knew it was going to happen eventually. But another new winner, Chase Elliott's in the playoffs, whatever.
We knew it was happening eventually.
We knew it was happening.
I said in the last episode, this is my last chance. I'm giving him my pick until he proves to me he can do it, and he did it, whether it's because of the rain or not. Either way, he was up where he needed to be, knowing that rain was coming. It's not like every other driver didn't know the rain was coming. They all knew. They all knew it was probably about to get called, and he was in the right place. So, we knew it was going to happen, and I'm not surprised it was at this road course.
Hey, man, we saw COTA. It came and went. I'm glad you got to go to this third race of the year. It was a wet one, but hey, Coke 600 next week, baby.
Yeah, you're going to be there next week.
I'm going to pass the torch.
Yeah, your turn. Hopefully,
living it up.
Hopefully, you can get some good content there, and I think we'll record most likely Wednesday, right?
Yeah, I think everything's lined up. I should be okay for Wednesday night.
Okay, so everybody tune in. Most likely Wednesday. Knowing us, could be Thursday. Who knows?
Wednesday or Thursday, y'all stay tuned.
All right. So everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all Wednesday and or Thursday. Peace.
All right, y'all. Peace.